Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be your host today on Archery Talk 101, and we have Bradley on the line with us. We're going to be talking with him. Let's get started with the show. And remember, you can watch us all over the place. If you have questions, make sure you ask them, and we'll do our best at answering them. So, Bradley, how about if you introduce yourself and tell us a little something about you?
Hi, my name's Bradley Kavanaugh. I'm an archer, hunter, and archery fan, and recently was a NASP coach, a BAI, basic archery instructor for the last 4 years for North Andrews schools, and we've just slowly transitioned over to S3DA side. So um, getting to learn that side now.
Yeah. Now, what is the S3DA?
So it's kind of like, so NASP is National Archeries in Schools program. S3DA is kind of the same. Um, it's just a program. It's a little different. Instead of shooting a Genesis bow at a known distance with no sights and a flipper rest like a NASP, you shoot your own compound bow. And depending on what you put in your bow or on your bow, you would be classified in certain categories, kind of like ASA or IBO. But it's
Okay.
for kids. So I don't quote me. I think it's 7 through 18. So maybe maybe 6 through 18. And when they graduate, usually they'll have a poll and they'll have all their certificates and their scholarships on the poll at the end of their career, which would be high school seniors. It's a really cool
Okay.
program.
Yeah, sounds like it is.
And they can
And
apply that towards a trade or a college. So I've seen at state this year, I've seen quite a bit of money on the polls for the kids in Missouri. Very impressive.
yeah, that's good. And S3DA archery. Well, we've got that. Let me just go ahead and share my screen and you can kind of talk us through some of the stuff that's going on. You should be able to see my screen, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So this is the website when you get there. It's just s3da.net and we can go through all kinds of stuff here. Oh, we got a button here on the front that says find a team. Now, does that take
Yep.
you find a team in your local area? So if
Yes.
I wanted
And
to find a team,
so our team is not a hoe. And that would be for the state of Missouri. And then you can search any state, um, and any team. If you know the name of the team, you can search by state as well. This program started in Kentucky, just like NASP did. Everything usually starts in Kentucky, and it's between NASP and S3DA. It has outgrown the World Little League Series baseball.
yeah.
So super popular programs on both
Oh,
sides.
yeah. Sounds like it.
And they just
Yeah,
had a big post about this that the amount of kids last year at NASP at state, which was in Branson, roughly had 7,200 kids. And then nationals had about 22,000 in Kentucky.
yeah, that's pretty good. Now, I just searched. I'm not actually in UTAM, but that's what it picked up. But Golden Arrow Archery Club, they've been around for quite a while,
Hmm.
and they actually have their indoor range, last I heard anyway. But they're also up at Cunningham Lake. They also manage the outdoor range up there, which they've got clear out to 60-yard targets as well as there's a horse trail that they have targets up along there. So it's
Hmm.
pretty good. I know that group pretty well, and so that worked out pretty good. You just at the top type in where you're at and what kind of range you're looking for, and of course where I'm at, I'm clear down um, over here past UTAN, so close to right around in here by me. But uh, if I go to Omaha or Lincoln, it's a 100-mile round trip. It's 50 miles to get to either one of those cities from the little village I'm in. So now that's
Yeah.
pretty nice. You can find yourself a little group right there for you. And of course, I'm a little bit too old for that group, but I was just looking around here. Um, I have roller skates that's three times the max age. So so my youngest kid is out of that. Now his daughter is not, but I don't know how much she's interested in archery, but he was. But yeah, that's Pretty good. It's got an about, talk about the program you have. And
Yes. So Janie White is the coordinator. I think it's 3 or 4 state coordinators, what she's doing currently um, for the program. So what it is you have an outdoor 3D for age and class that they shoot in. They're allowed to shoot up if they're super good. Some states have different rules on that. Um, and then they have an outdoor target where that is, depending on their age, is a known distance, shooting 6 arrows at 6 sets for a total score of, um, be 360, I think, on that one, total, but 36 times 10. So yeah, 360. But the
yeah,
outdoor 3D is very similar to ASA and IBO. So you have an A course and a B course. Um, regionals in the state of Missouri, they only shoot 20 targets, but at nationals this year in Montana, specifically Marysville is where we were at, which was a ski lodge, they made them shoot 2 days. So 2 days, each day, 20 targets, and then back for another 20. And then they had the shoot offs. So outdoor
but
targets kind of like FIDA, if that would help you
yeah,
kind of picture what the kids are doing, which is really cool. They just stand there and do their best all day long. They had 2 days of that as well. That was in Helena, Montana. And then nationals on the eastern side was in Williamsburg this year because of the tornadoes. Um, so they have an eastern and a western on each state as well. So each state, whoever qualifies at each state in the United States, they have a ticket to go to nationals on the eastern and western side, depending on where they live.
sounds like a pretty good program. You know, that if you want to get in
So
the nest, then you everybody's shooting the same bow, and this gives you, those that have their own bows want to shoot their own bow. This gives them an option to do that,
yeah,
and
we have a lot of kids that love NAS, but they're all shooting the same Genesis, no let off, single cam bows, same arrows, same rest. Have- Sometimes some kids love it, some kids get bored with it and they want to shoot their own bows. So they transition over to this side where we're at now.
well, the advantage of the NAS is everybody's shooting the same equipment. There's no advantage,
Nope.
if you have lots of money to spend on equipment, or have no money to spend on equipment, you're competing against skill.
Yes.
And here with yours is you've got not just skill, but also you have different equipment. But then it sounds like you put in different categories so that not everybody is shooting the same category with multiple different options of equipment, right?
Yeah. So if you go back to the NASP side, one thing I was really proud about NASP on is not just the fundraisers, but the schools. They will provide a bow if a kid is underprivileged or doesn't have the money or just needs financial help. The bows, the arrows are provided at the school as well. So everybody can shoot. Another thing that the NAS does I really like is if you have 5 boys on a team, they require you to have 5 girls. So the team has to be
Oh yeah,
compromised of 50-50 boy and girl. Now this is the NAS side, not the S3DA side. So I'm kind of jumping on you here.
yeah.
Just a little bit. I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to
Oh,
make sure you knew that, because S3DA side, you can have a team. There's no requirements on that one, but or you can shoot individually for yourself. You've got 2 options if you have enough for a team. There's also college scouts at these events, and they're kind of watching your kids. We did talk to one. Um, it was in Arkansas, Lyons, Arkansas, I think. And he said they're there for the good shooters, but he says we can take any shooter as long as they love archery, and we'll train them at our college when they graduate. Their kids this summer went to France, Italy, and Germany to teach military bases archery, which I thought was really cool for
oh
summer.
yeah.
So that was very impressive. But you meet um, some people like that. It's a good conversation to talk with them. We call them scouts, but really cool.
Yeah, because not always is the best shooter going to turn out to be the best shooter. I've seen many times somebody's like just struggling, and finally, when you're teaching them, you come to this one spot and you change something because this isn't working. If I'm teaching somebody how to do something and they're not getting it, I can't expect them to get if I teach them the same thing. So I got to pivot and teach them something else, and then all of a sudden something will just click. And
Yep.
then now this shooter that couldn't hardly hit the target is now nailing the X rings, and you just never know. What's their desire, and like you said, somebody that don't have the skill that has desire is coachable and will learn.
Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. So in NASP, I've seen some of the best shooters quit because they got target panic, and you can't really. There's certain things you can do on the NASP side, but it's fingers and string, right? On the S3DA side, if you were to witness that or see that, most of the training tools that we use is a resistance release to get them back to square one or a hinge, right? And
Yeah,
then bond bailing, all of the exercises that Levi talks about, or Bodie Turner, or Mr. Turner. Um, you could put them on a clicker. There's lots of things you can do to save a kid, but on the other side, I've seen the downside of a state shooter that won nationals in state. The next year, he completely quit because he got target panic so bad he couldn't control it. He just couldn't fix it.
yeah, and
So,
and there's some things you can do, even fingers that you can do to help them out, but um, sometimes you have to take them back to square one.
well, that's what
You
we
know,
did. On the school side, it depends on the passion of the shooter, right? So you
right?
try your best to, you know, redirect, but some kids are kind of into it. Some kids aren't. You get different levels of that. So it's to me, it's a little easier on the S3DA side to do a turnaround for somebody.
Because you can change the release technique completely by, like I said,
Yeah.
going to a tension release or a clicker or whatever, and just going through and teaching them. And there's a lot of things that you can do to work through that. Um, if you
Stands.
get a chance,
Yes, you're right. Stands and Carter. I'm not very familiar with Carter, but stands I'm all about. I've put several kids on a resistance release, and it's night and day. Is it
yeah,
going to be permanent? No, but they've won state with it, they've won regionals with it, and they placed at nationals. But eventually they'll transition to a hinge, right? If I go to put them back on a button, they start that punching again because they don't have that shot process compartmentalized in their brain.
yeah,
And it's like Joel Turner said, if you don't compartmentalize it and speak it out loud, step by step, and build that foundation, you'll never get it. So it's just easier to go to resistance and teach that stretch and pull through.
yeah. And I've been shooting Carters for quite a while. I have this is my Carter chocolate addiction that I use, and um, one thing you notice, I don't have that knurled knob on there because the way I shoot them, knurled
Yeah.
knob don't do anything because I don't use my thumb to pull the trigger.
Yep.
And that's where you get in trouble, from
Yep.
an index finger to have some dexterity to using the thumb, which has no dexterity compared to your index finger. Now you're trying to use something that you have to really concentrate on to move. And, that just causes a problem where, I went through this quite a bit on the last one, but I bury it into my hand. So it's clear back here where the thumb goes. And then I can put pressure. I can squeeze this really hard until, my hand starts shaking and it won't go off. But as soon as I go through the shot process, it pulls the trigger, and it's a real hard trigger. I have the hardest spring in it. They don't like to use the hard spring because it wears them out, but I put the hardest one in. They comes because it comes with three different kinds of springs in this one, and I put the heavy one in because I want to be able to put a little pressure on it and not have it go as soon as I touch it. My son's got one, but it's real light trigger. As soon as I start putting pressure on it, it goes off. It's like I want to be able to pull through, and um, there's all kinds of things you can do on. And I went through some stuff on the last podcast with the guy. He was struggling with some stuff, and so we kind of went over that. So, just go pick up, look for podcast number 239, and I went over some stuff with that guy in there, and 230 had some more stuff like that, and This is podcast number 240. So I've got quite a few, and sometimes you get some duplicate stuff because that's what we're talking about. But yeah, target panic is one of those things that can be difficult to get rid of, especially if you have the idea of pulling the trigger. Um, you can't pull
Well,
the trigger because you
you
can't
remember,
aim and pull trigger.
yeah, you remember as kids. I mean, we all did it. We got an index finger trigger, right? And what's the first thing we start doing when we think, you get the tip of the finger on that thing and you start mashing it, right? Because you can
Yeah,
control it. Your mind's saying explosion, get rid of it. We've all done it. And some people still do it, but when I put you on a resistance, it's a love hate. And I can tell within about 10 shots how bad it is on the shot control, right? And then that tells me what release you need to go to next because some of these resistance releases that we put you in, it's a telltale. It'll tell on you real quick. I've had people let go of the release. I've had people, pull back like they're supposed to and go wow and blink their eyes and jump. I've had everything you can think of, but that resistance is the starter. I think if everybody would have started on that release, I think we would have ended up a lot better. I really believe that.
yeah, because it forces you. At the last podcast, a guy talked about the tension release, and so I actually looked one up to see. I think it was a silverback.
Yep,
Uh,
that is a knock
that
to it. That's a John Dudley. Very good release. Just like a Carter. Um, the only difference between the knock to it and the Carter, the stand has a thumb button, but it's a safety. So you would engage the safety, pull back, relax the hand, relax the back, and slightly stretch, and then it's going to go off, right? But it's going to scare you because you don't know when you can't force it. You'd really have to. You think you can pull through faster, but you can't. I'll be honest with you. And I can set it extremely hard or extremely light. Extremely light's not a good idea because when you let go of the safety, it'll go off. And it's got a trainer pin you can practice with, but it's just an all around good release for somebody starting that wants to start off right. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It
So
really is. Not to, I mean, I'm a stand fan, but I'm just that release, any resistance release I'm a fan of right now for starters.
so what's the difference between like the Carter and then the other one, the
Not
silverback?
good.
Yeah, the not
So
to it.
Carter has a new release that I'm getting familiar with. They're doing magnets now. I don't know if you've seen this or not.
No, I
And
haven't.
okay, so according to where you put the magnets, I don't have a picture to put up for you, but just picture pre-drilled holes with cylindrical magnets that go down in the release handle. And according to the magnets you remove or add, that is your poundage on your resistance, which is really cool. That's a new technology that nobody's tried.
Yeah,
Um, I've talked to one guy that shot it. Um, he said it was totally awesome, but there was one reset that he wasn't a big fan of, and it was clear down by the click. That you had to reset it after you magnetized it. It didn't sound like a big deal, but I haven't seen it to give you a good feedback on it yet. But I
yeah,
have
that's
heard I've that's a new technology, so I have not heard of anybody firing a release by magnetism. So
yeah, that's
if you look it up, you'll be able to see it. It's their new one.
yeah, I've got Carter um uh PPT, perfect pole tension.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well,
It's- Go
let me
ahead.
just while we're talking about it, let's go ahead and share that screen so we can kind of see what it
Yep,
is
there
because
it
that's
is.
kind of interesting. Me, I'd probably put all the magnets in there as hard as I can because I don't like a light trigger. Now I do on my rifles. I like, I shot on a rifle team in high school, and we had to have 1 pound trigger, and I think mine is like a pound and a half. But you're not walking around with it. You're laying there, and you take safety off, and then you get all ready, and you just light pull on the trigger. Because they'd test them. They'd hang a 1 pound weight on a hook, and they'd set it on that trigger. If it went off, you had to adjust it so it wouldn't go off. And
That is that is actually it. That's their new claim to fame. Haven't tried it. I'm still shooting the stands, but looks really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to get some of that when I get going back here again. And that looks like it's just a hinge release there. I don't see any triggers. Yeah,
So
they've
you
got
go back,
some.
you kind of mentioned something on the, I back just a little bit while you're looking at that. You mentioned it about the click. You remember we were talking about that.
Yeah,
That Joel Turner release that stands did in cooperation with each other that I have one. It's the clicker. Um, that release is another release that will break you of some bad habits because when you get to the click, it's like a hinge. It frightens a lot of people if they're not used to it or makes them jumpy. But after 3 or 4 months of that, you'll learn to process and compartmentalize your shot through the click. I know
yeah,
Levi's quoted as the click for him is almost before he even anchors, he admits he gets to the click. So it's his shot process is where he's at with that. But it's kind of like Joel
yeah.
Turner, same process.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to hunt with it because that click is they're going to hear in the forest really good.
And I know some people that I've been on the range with some people and I've talked to quite a few and they're like, yeah, man, it's a love hate on the click. It's about 50-50.
Yeah, I brought up um,
There it
the
is. Yeah.
yeah.
Then I didn't tell you. So that's the brass heavy metal, super heavy. That's my favorite. And then there's an aluminum. I think it's green, Osage green in color. And then there's a gray. Um, the gray that you're looking at there, that's a aluminum. And then that's the link. So that's just a kind of economical version of the onyx there to the left on the
Oh
hinges.
yeah,
So the one on the left has more bells and whistles. The one on the right's just the economical model. You can change out your clicks and your moon clicks on it.
yeah. I've played around a couple times with a hinge, and you really got to make sure when you're pulling that hinge back that you don't put any pressure on the little fingers. Always on the index finger to get it back, and then letting down because you already cut pulled back. You got to make sure you put all that pressure forward because it'll take off on you. It's
Yep. That's why I
definitely
love
not
the,
a beginner release.
yes, that's why I love the stands. They all have that. Onyx has that button safety. So if you make a mistake, it's not going to do anything during the pull process. It will do it during the firing process. But they have a trainer pin you can put in and practice with it, so it will never go off until you take the trainer pin out. Um, I didn't really understand that concept until I started practicing with an arrow. Um, that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
There's a little stainless steel pin that you would screw down into the release that won't let it fire. So it's kind of cool.
that's like there's a pin on the little knurled knob.
Yeah,
Is that's it?
that comes out, yep, and it goes down on the head, down there where you would hook the string to, and it locks that little clip in to where it won't open. So you take it in and out and put it back in the button when you're done.
That way you can practice with them because a lot of these releases like that, it's hard to let down. I had um I don't know if it was this bow or my last bow, but you did not want to let down on that because it was a pretty radical cam for the as old as the bow it was, and if you weren't careful, it'd take off on you. So you got to let
Wow.
down, and all of a sudden it just collapse on you.
Yeah,
Um, so you have to learn how to let down on those bows with the hard cam on them.
yeah,
And that's where this having that safety in there, you can practice drawn and letting down and just get used to how that cam reacts when you start letting down because they're designed to increase the
yep,
speed all at once. And if you're not used to it, that could be a problem.
yeah. And I've tested it, and so has the daughter. We both shoot the resistance. I still shoot the resistance, and I have a hinge too and a clicker. Um, but we have tested this. So we've let off the safety and started our pull. The wind picked up, pulled the safety back on, and let back down. So we've tested it, pulling back, not letting the safety off and letting down, which it's not going to go off that way. But we have tested it by letting the safety off, starting the shot process, stopping the shot process, pulling the safety back in and letting down, and it won't go off. So we've tested it about every which way you can.
And that's on the stand.
Yes. Without a trainer pin, this is just live, like we're at a shoot, you know what I mean? And
Oh
the
yeah.
wind the wind picked up or whatever happened, and you already let the safety off and you're already starting your shot process. You can grab that safety again and let up, and you're perfectly fine.
Now
That safety engages.
which release was that one?
The stands resistance, the one you
Resistance.
just had
Okay.
up.
Oh, this one
Yeah.
here, the Onyx.
Yep.
Okay.
It comes in, so you're just showing the brass heavy metal, but it comes in an Osage green aluminum version as well. I don't know why it's not showing it there, but it's above
Yeah.
somewhere. Um, so these are just features I'm telling you that I think are great for a beginning archer, a youth archer, or kids, or an adult that just needs to refine their shot process.
Yeah. Now here's the green one when I clicked on more.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
looks like
it's
they've got a lot of stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll put a link to all this in the description so
yeah,
people can find them a little easier and in that way, it's like, okay, what was it talked about? Just look at the description, click on the link.
yeah. But hey, there's one thing that we haven't talked about. I was going to bring up to you that's going to
Oh
take a
yeah.
little bit of time here. Is I'm working on getting with a lot of these companies on the S3DA side, and possibly the NASP, but more S3DA. I'm trying to get instead of these companies doing like a big donation to an organization, a lot of needs I see are shooter card raffles. So if you go to one of these state events and let's say there's 300 kids there, I'm trying to work with the vendors to where they'll donate arrows, sights, rest. So every kid has a chance at a raffle at the end of the shoot, whether they podium or not. This is a big undertaking, and I don't think anybody's ever asked companies to do this that I know of.
Instead of donating money to the project, donate material, products.
Yeah, we're not interested in the money. We're more interested in the products because then you can get your name out and you're actually donating a dozen arrows with ultra arrows or whatever. Let's say you give 5 dozen away that year or that at that shoot. Everybody at that shoot's going to recognize ultra arrows, their banner, and then what you did for the youth. I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, because using it and if you're using a product, uh, then it's like, okay, I like this product. You're going to promote it, and why do Apple computers? Everybody wants an Apple computer because they donated to all these schools. The kids are using them in school, and what are they going to want when they for home? The same thing they use in school. And the same thing here. If you're using, using a really nice site that you really like a lot, and somebody else seeing you shoot it, it's like, yeah, I would like this is the things it can do, and next thing you know, that's better than giving out money, because now then you can see the product in their hands, and well, that's why you have staff shooters because
Yeah, and I'm
they're out there
definitely.
shooting. When I was a PSC dealer, my shooters, they shot the PSC and they go to different events and they see them and then they're promoting, the tuning and other stuff I do, but they're shooting that bow and the equipment and stuff we have and that's the best way to promote product is to get it in their hands.
Yeah, so what alarmed me a little bit or set me back was at all of these events, we had hardly any giveaways or shooter card raffles. So I was taken back that the archery industry wasn't present in full force. And I was, see a need, fill a need. But um, I think if companies want to get more involved, then they need to donate some products at these events. I mean, it would be huge because there's 50 states, but you could do it at different levels. Regional would be one side's a donation, state would be a different donation, and nationals would be a big donation, right? Um,
Yeah.
as you move up, but nobody's doing it. Vortex did 4 packages, binocular and rangefinder packages at nationals. That was it.
Yeah, that's not much. And getting with like Saunders Archery, they have so many different products out there.
Yep.
Um, and I like to support Saunders Archery because they're out here in Columbus, Nebraska. They're a Nebraska company.
Yeah, and I mean, I I think a booth, that people probably have already thought about booths. I don't know if there's any money in a booth for them to sell some product at these shoots, but the giveaway products with the banner and get your product in front of people, I think is priceless. The big donations are
Yeah.
great. Don't get me wrong. Keep doing that. But I think at the lower levels, or not the lower level, but like the lower level, mid level, high level, um, just these little donations go a mile for everybody because the parents are driving quite a ways and spending quite a bit of money. Um, so I'd like to see more companies jump on board with this. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I'm talking to them and trying to get them into the program instead of doing a 501c, just asking for donations to donate, at a shooter card raffle next year at each one of these shoots, and then present them with all the shoots. And then if it blows up, then it'll be all 50 states, and then they'll have to figure out how to do that. But you got to start somewhere.
Yes, it's like okay, let's try it. Let's see how it goes over and find some way of tracking the results. As you give away, say what you're going to give away at this shoot is you donate 50 slings, or whatever, and then you use that, and then track what the sales come from that area because it'd be like a local shoot. So, if you had one here, in Nebraska, it's like okay, how many sales are we getting from Nebraska and Iowa because of this event we held right here between Iowa and Nebraska? Because we're going to draw from both states if you're on a border, and you can say, okay, did we get an increase in sales? It might not be much because you're not giving much away, but then there's, or you could have them say, okay, here's, if you want to buy something, here's 10% off. Here's a code for 10% off, and then you track that too. Okay, this event we give these cards out, and this is our sales because of that, because you can track that discount.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you can do, and because maybe if you're giving away a bunch of slings, well, I have a sling on all my bows already, and I have some extra ones. I don't need a sling, but maybe I could get 10% off something I do need. You know, that's it's options to promote it and just to see how it goes over. And there's lots of ways to track it.
Yeah, in the shooter community, word of mouth is spreads like wildfire. I mean,
Oh
there's
yeah.
no banner, there's the banners are the cheapest way to go. I know there's about $50, but man, you hang a banner up and you've got predictive programming. I mean, that's what it
Right.
is. It's in your face, you can see it, right? It's like Matthews advertising, they're everywhere.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, they own that market, right? And they got it down to a science. Good for them. But it's like at these events, NASP or S3DA, they're the future. That's our youth archers right there. Why not do that?
Yeah.
That's the
And,
growth in our industry.
and even if they send somebody there, um, with a banner and a booth, and here's some of our new products. And it's like, okay, here, go try, have a target there. Here, try out this new release. It's like, here, shoot it, see what you think of it.
Yeah.
If you like it, great. If you don't like it, well, here to show you, you get a discount or something. Then you can sell the stuff and, or get their address and ship them one, something like there's all kinds of things you can do. And, it's nice to be able to go there. It's like, oh, I want to try this release. This sounds cool. Like if I was at one of those shoots and they had one of these resistance ones, I was like, well, yeah, here, I'm gonna put mine back in my quiver and let me try that one. And and I'd try it and I who knows, I might buy one anyway and try it once I get back where I can start shooting again.
Well, that's what I was my thinking was how many kids at each event that would determine how much product you give away, right? So you put it in a chart, for every 50 kids you give something away or 100 kids you give three things away. But I didn't even think of booth because I was starting with just a banner and free product or discounted product, however they want to do it. But you start adding that up, and you can really get your product out there um,
Right?
to a lot of people. Even if you discount it, I mean, I don't know how they want to do it yet, but this is the growth for our youth, and I think we need to flood it.
Yeah. And it don't have to be a big discount. If you got a release that you're selling for $300, sell it for 270 or 280 or even 290,
Yeah,
give 10 bucks off.
yeah,
Um, or a lot of them, it's like, okay, you get five off if you're spending 50, you get 10 off if you're spending 100, gradually. So the more you spend, the more dollars you get off. Well, it still is about the same percentage.
yeah, and it's no secret. Any of your top-notch shooters, they know that resistance release, they call it the trainer release. Some people can't ever get off of it, and that's fine because you still shoot good with it. But that release, if they could, get the cost down, to where more people could afford it, I think they'd sell a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, and costs come down. Look at computers now. What can get a laptop for? When IBM first come out with their first PC, it included a box, power supply, motherboard, cassette interface, and that was it. If you wanted a monitor, you had to buy a graphics card and a monitor. If you wanted floppy drives, you had to buy those. Those are $570 a piece for
Yep,
the 5-inch floppy. And now
yep,
what can you get, you know, what do you get now for a laptop? Less than what we were paying for a floppy drive. And the more you get out there, the cost comes down because any new product, you got to recover your development cost.
yep.
So they're always more expensive. And then as they get more the marketing, and now they've recovered their cost, and now expenses are going down, and that's just marketing.
But what if I told you that, S3DA is besides NASP, is the fastest growing sport in the United States, okay? And there is no vendors at these events. That blows my mind, right? What a missed opportunity or a beginning opportunity for any company that, wants to get their product in front of their future generations.
Yeah. Well, especially some of these new startup companies that don't really have big name like the Saunders Archery or Lancaster Archery and all
Yeah,
those big names like that. You've got a small company, you've developed you designed a new release, or you got a new sight or new rest or just any accessories or that you happen to have. Broadheads. There's a lot of different new companies on broadheads that I'd never heard of. I've interviewed some of them on the podcast, but they're what better way to get your product out there than to go to one of those events? And the problem is that some of the small ones they don't have the production to all of a sudden, okay, I got 1,000 units I need to make, and I'm currently only making you know 300 or 400 a year, and now I got an order for 1,000. Sometimes you can run into that kind of a problem, but that's a good problem to have as long as you can handle it. And what better way for a new company to get out there, get their banner up, to get their product out so that people can see it and shoot it and or shoot with it or use it. There's all kinds of things out there that give advantage, and I guess that's probably the best way to approach them is say, okay, here's when it started. And over this many years, we've grown from this, and we're growing at this rate. So by next year, we'll have this many. In 3 years, we're projecting to have this many archers in there. And you can say, do you want to be at the beginning of this, or you want to come at the end when everybody else has already flooded it with the same product you're doing? They're already there and promoted all this. You want to be in front of the pack or behind it?
yeah, and this is they want new clubs every day. Like they want to grow and grow and grow. It's in all the states, but more states per local townships and all that could grow in their own archery clubs, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's just the start. We're just starting, So it's just an idea of I pro staff for Bear Archery, and I've been talking to them. I'm like, this is a huge missed opportunity right here, um,
Yeah.
for anybody. Um, arrows, release, bows, whatever you want to promote, you guys need to be there or donate some product. So
Yeah, I see it could be kind of a big investment to send a representative to an event like that. But, hey, send a banner, put the banner up, um, send some products
I,
and,
I've even
whoever's putting the shoot on. Yeah.
I've even offered just exactly what you said. I've said, hey, send it to me. I will take it to the shoot. I will put your banner up and put your product in the shooter card raffle. You don't even have to come. Um, and then we'll take the banner down and take it to the next shoot, put your banner up and hand out more product. It's pretty user friendly right now.
Yeah.
It's wide open. So, but yeah, I just wanted to go over that with you. That's something I'm working on and waiting to hear back from the S3DA on opening in this can. So I'm hoping we can get this going by 2026 because we're getting ready to go into outdoor 3D in December. So it would be nice to get this implemented.
Yeah. And the other thing we can do too is, as you get some of those on there, it will get them on the podcast and we'll talk about their product on here like we're doing now. Um, I've got a platform where I can promote anything I want. We start talking archery, but sometimes we've got into, and most of the conversation is about shooting guns.
Yeah.
Because it's just wherever we go, and that's the advantage of this, and I'm all over the place with it. I post out to, like this podcast here. I'll split it up. I send it to Opus Clips, which I use that, and it'll probably convert it into like 40 different shorts, and I
Hmm.
send it out to 6 different social sites as well as
Yeah.
going out to the audio version goes out to Spotify and goes it's on audible.com. And then I go to my YouTube channel, which I've got about 1,200 subscribers right now on it. It goes out to there, and then also I post out the shorts there as well. And then of course, it goes on live on my profile, and then into the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group, and that's a good group for somebody that wants to learn something because we have archery instructors. I've been an instructor since '95, and Bowtechs. I've been working on bows professionally since 2001 when I got my store and went to PSE's dealer school. And I make my own strings, and I actually learned how to make the steel cables.
I still remember them, and
Yeah,
I'm young. The teardrop cables, I never will forget them when I was
yeah,
a kid.
yeah. And that was like 20 years ago. That was normal on your lower end bows with the steel cables. PSE had the Nova line.
Yep.
And they were all steel cables. In fact, I did run across a set of cams that had the cables on them. I forget which size boat it was. They had 3 different ones. But now I don't think you could even find the cables. And if you did, they'd be, well, last I heard, they were still available at $100 a piece, and you have to buy two.
Ooh. Oh,
Yeah. And that's been several years ago. So I doubt you can even get them.
wow. Wow.
Yeah, because no new bows are using steel cables like that.
Yeah.
And if you had one and it had some meeting, like it was your dad's bow and the steel cables broke and you wanted to do something to at least have it look like a bow and hang up. You could make some string ones and get them going, but um, getting them in those old cams might be a challenge. But you could probably do something at least to get it strung so it looks like a bow to hang up on the wall. It'd only be a wall hanger. You'd never want to shoot it because it just wouldn't. I don't think it'd stand up to it. But
Yeah.
you could. But um, I've got one that a friend of ours had. It was a real old one. It had a weird. It wasn't a teardrop, but it had like 3 different. It looked like a T, almost like a Christmas tree. There's like 3 different ones on it, and there's no string on it or anything. And so I was gonna at least clean it up, put together, put a string on it, just cause it's it would be something, just hang up on a wall or something.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, yeah. It's like because I'd never seen the steel cables with that type of an end on it. And it's like
Oh,
you can make it 3 different lengths because you can use, there's a little pin. The main bar goes up, and then you've got 3 of them that go crosswise. It forms like a little, multiple T's, and I don't know how long to make the string, but I would just kind of probably put it in my bow press and say, okay, that's good, and measure it and make a string. Have just enough pressure on it that it won't come apart.
That was my first, was a Bear Whitetail 2. I remember to this day with the teardrop cables. Um, I killed my first deer with that actually when I was 16.
That was my
So
first compound I shot was my brother's, and
yeah,
he had that bear whitetail too. And it's kind of weird. You move the cable from one pin to another pin for the different let-offs and all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, that was the first bow I shot was the bear whitetail too. And then
do
in
you
the
remember do you remember the length?
I don't remember. Um,
So we're right back to where we were in the late 80s, early 90s. We're going back long axle to axle again, and everybody's talking about it. But it's like that's all we've ever known. Whether it was target or hunting, it was the same length. Do you
38,
remember that?
36.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
everything was. I mean, there's 36 plus. I mean, it's like, and people now are like, man, 35 is big, and I'm like, huh? What do you mean big? That ain't big. Like,
Well, I've had somewhere like 40,
oh
in
yeah,
compound, 40 and
42.
42. And
Oh yeah,
um, I think my first PSE was 38 or 36. And now my Scorpion, I think, is maybe 34, 36. And that
yeah,
feels short to me. And yeah, the advantage of the longer ones is your tightrope walkers, you have that great big long pole because you
yeah.
can't move those ends very quick. It's
Uh-uh.
like taking a stick, it's 2 feet long and trying to twist your hand back and forth really quick. It don't do it, but put it in a pencil.
Yeah.
So the longer
Oh,
ones, they're more stable. Easier to
yeah.
hold them steady when you get the longer axle, and the string angle on your face is much better. Because I seen we had a short one and the draw leaf, and that string was probably 3 inches. The peep was 3 inches away from his eye. How do
Yeah.
you see through a peep? You got to have that great big quarter-inch hole in order to have a chance of seeing through it. And when my eyes were younger, I'd use the little small one because I could see through it. Now, as I got older, I had to go to the bigger one so I could see through it. And right now, I'm I can't even see through it at all right now.
So when we were at nationals, I met a family. Their daughter won the world at Vegas, actually with an elite Exalt 35-inch axle to axle, 16-year-old girl. So that's their elite's target bow. But it was kind of funny because the girl was 4'7". So the bow was almost as tall as she was,
Yeah.
but she could shoot it.
Well, it makes it a little bit nicer when you have a little bit longer.
Yeah. It's always been that way. I don't know why we got away from it. I think the tree stand guys started to complain and we went down below 34 and now we're down in the 29 and a half and 30-inch. It's just incredibly small.
Well, I'd say if you're shooting out of a blind, those great big tall ones,
Mhm.
38, 40, 42s, by the time you get them up, you're real close to hitting the top of the blind. So a little
Yep.
shorter one works out better. And, if you want really short, get a crossbow.
Yeah, it gets really tough below 32 for me to try to get stability going. Just that's just my personal preference. So everybody's different, but for me, 32s and under, it starts to get tougher on string angle and stability. Um, you really gotta you really gotta practice a lot.
Yeah. And, as the bows got faster and faster, not a whole lot faster than what my my PSE Carrera was rated at 320 feet per second. This is a 2001 bow, and they're not a whole lot faster than that. Um, but I don't shoot anywhere near that speed.
Hmm.
Now, my target arrows that I shoot in a different PSE bow, those are like 370 grains, and I'm shooting about 420 grain out of the hunting bow. And the reason I'm shooting that heavy an arrow, I wouldn't normally have done it, but PSE, when they made arrows, they had their Carbon Force and their X Force arrows. They come out with one that was a 7,000 straightness. I ordered a set of shafts so that I could test them and see. Well, the difference between 1000s and 7000s is X ring on a 5 spot, the X ring or the white ring. So you could keep them, I could keep them in the white, but I couldn't keep them in the X. But the 1000s, I could easily keep my broadheads in the X.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I changed arrows, because I finally gone through enough of them, I want to make up some more arrows. That's when I discovered I had to put weight tubes in them because there was like, why is this so much heavier? The old ones. Well, as the um, 4000s or 400 spine arrow, PSC did theirs backwards. It was 100 was the weakest spine, 200, 300, and 400. And I shoot the
Oh,
300. That's where the 70 pound. Now everybody else does them the opposite way, but PSC did them backwards.
hmm.
And they were mismarked instead of being 300s or mismarked as a 400, which meant heavier arrow because the thickness is heavier to stand out for the higher pressures. Well, at 70 pounds, you didn't need the 400. So this is like the guys that shot the 90 pounds, on those kind of bows. And, so now then I'm trying to match because I wanted to match the weight, be the same because I didn't want to go through and change all my pins because the 20-yard pin will change, the 30, the 40, 50, and 60 all will change. And so I put weight tubes in it to get the weights the same so I didn't have to change all my pins.
That's kind of like why I started shooting ultra arrows. When I start spinning them, the layup process, there's no stiff side, high side, knock tuning's gone. It's kind of like when you build your own arrows. You get to a point where you want to skip some steps, like Levi said. You don't have to deal with that anymore. And I've never went back after that. It's just been so much easier, and my groups have gotten better too. So I think technology and carbon has come a long ways.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's changing, and I'm sure it's going to change even more. But the high side, stiff side, that's about over. I mean, everybody's trying to get away from that now, because you really got to watch your knock tuning on those
Yeah. Well, and I
and how
remember
you
when,
fletch, and, how you index. You really got to watch, especially fletching those as well. But
yeah.
um, they still shoot great. It's just to me, it's a old school process, like you said. Technology's coming, so.
I know when the carbons first come out, it's like no way I would shoot a carbon, no way I'd ever hunt with a carbon, because when they were laid, the fibers were run from the knock to the tip, just in straight lines. So if they broke, they shattered carbon fiber fragments all over the place. So
Yep.
you had to be careful you didn't get them in your fingers.
Yeah.
So there's no way I would even consider a carbon. And then they started coming out with the cross weave or where you run one vertical and one horizontal, so they cross over each other. So when they break, they just break clean. And then being a PSA dealer, they started making their own. They got an aerospace company to make their carbon shafts to meet their standards. And now I was talking to a guy that works at PSE, and they don't even do those anymore. And it's like, man, they were great shafts. They were tough. Um, I took
You,
when I had my store, the steel doors on a commercial building is pretty tough. They're still hollow, but I took one of those arrows and not on purpose, but I did something, and that arrow penetrated through up to the fletching through that steel door. Did not hurt the arrow at all.
mm,
And
wow.
that was a bullet point, so it wasn't a real sharp, a bullet point. And then one night I was getting ready for hunting season, I had my broadhead target out, and I shot above it right into the concrete block. So I go down there, arrow's laying on the ground, insert's cracked in half, the shaft is cracked about an inch back, and my broadhead stuck in the concrete block. I still use a taunt with.
Mm.
There's a muzzy, that tricar tip. They say it's bad to the bone. Yeah, it stood up to a brick, a
Yeah,
concrete
we
block.
we ran the barrel test on that. I don't know, probably 10 years ago. That and the Wasp was the only three blades back in the day that held up to a 55-gallon barrel shoot. The Muzzy, Trocar tip, and the Wasp. And I don't even know if they meant Wasp is still in business, but those were the two that ran the barrel several times and still held up. Um, I don't want to say the other manufacturers, but the blades kind of folded and the tips kind of broke. But Muzzy's always been known for that. It's a good head.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, and I've um yeah, you can still get wasp.
Those were the two that I remember when we ran our barrel test one time. That not only did we shoot them once, but we shot them multiple times. We shot them until there wasn't any blades on them, and the Muzzy was kind of the top contender every time. So it was kind of like nothing could really compare to it back then. It was just tried and true.
Yeah, it's talking about wasp. Here's a wasp. It looks just like a muzzy.
Yep, they kind of copied them. I didn't know they were still in business. That's cool.
Yeah, I just looked them up. I was like, oh, I'm curious to see if they're still there. And yeah,
Yep.
that's that same tip. And let me just see quick. Let's look for.
I'll bet you the patent was up is why, because it looks just like a
Could be.
Muzzy.
It could be. They've been doing them for quite a while. Muzzy broadheads. Let's see. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there they
that's
are.
the one I shoot right now.
Yep,
I used to shoot the 145 grain four blade. Yeah, it
yep,
looks like they are getting into some hybrid ones, so they got two fixed and two mechanicals.
yeah.
But yeah, see, there's
Muzzy's kind of, I think Muzzy's kind of a staple name in the broadhead community. They were one of the first tried and truths to come out with a solid
yeah.
broadhead.
Well, and when I bought my first compound bow, um, when I was in there, I said, "Well, what broadhead should I use?" And she said Muzzy, and I have yet to shoot any broadhead other than a Muzzy.
Yeah, I've shot a bunch. I've tried them all pretty much. Even back when we were filming, we did NAP for a long time. In the late '90s. That's when the first 2 and 3 blade expandables came out. Um, Talked to them a couple times. Couple the 3 blades specifically would do a kick on impact. So if it was at an angle on a deflection, um, even though you made a good shot, if that blade opened first, the other two stayed closed, the arrow would lose all of its energy, turn violently, and go in sideways. So it was
Yeah,
kind of an issue there. So we stayed with the 2 blades and then talked to them about it, and they tried to revamp it. Um, that was like 90, 97, 96, when they first did those. It's the first ones I remember besides Rocket. Rocket was another big name back then of expandable.
yeah. I've never been a real big fan of expandables. Um, just simply because you got to depend on them open up whatever it is to open them up.
Yeah.
And I've seen too many people. They try to it makes a lot of them make a real wide cut, but then you see archers trying to use them at 50 pounds and low poundage, and they'll go in a couple inches, a big white hole, but only about 2 inches in at most, and never gets anything vital. And I still didn't want to shoot them, and I was shooting 70 pounds, which is plenty enough to you on a mechanical. But what about that time, like you said, at an angle that you've got a quartering away or a quartering two shot? Now you got to go at that angle, and like you said, it opens up that one blade, and it you drag there, and now it's going to turn them, and it can't go straight through. It's got to turn a little bit, and or I just wasn't a fan of them at the
You, you,
speed I'm shooting my bow now.
you
Now, if I
get
was
the,
pushing it over 300 feet per second, you kind of pretty much have to go to mechanicals because fixed blades are too hard to control at that higher speed.
yeah, you get the 2T areas that you can go down the dramatic route, I call it, that group of people, or you can go down the trailing route, right? So both are good shots. Um, One has more blood instantly, one has less blood. They're the same shot. One hole's bigger, one hole's smaller, tomato, tomato. Where it changes is if you make a bad shot or, deflection, or um, then you've got a bigger problem like you were just discussing. But that's been the argument, I think, since the the dawn of the open on impacts against the fixed, is trauma versus trailing.
Yeah. Well, and if you go in and the blade opens up and you catch a bone and either way, that's going to most likely it's going to destroy that blade because they're not very tough because they're fairly thin. And if you go in and catch that at an angle, now then you've destroyed that side of it. It's on around, and who knows what it's going to do. But the whole thing is shot placement,
Yep. And I'm a big proponent of the animal deserves the best shot you can give.
right?
And, if there's no shame in if a shot isn't present, pass it, there's no shame in that game at all.
No,
Never force it. And
and
that's a
we've
rookie
all,
mistake. We've all done that. So
yeah,
everybody's done it. But that's just something advice I would give to the younger group is that tomorrow will come again. Let it go.
right. And the last thing you want to do is wound the animal. It runs off so far and then eventually dies, and you don't get to eat it.
Yeah, I mean that's the worst part, right? Is suffering. So it's quick clean. That's what you want. That's why I was a proponent back then. I ran two blade, and I that was my favorite head. I could go through both shoulders, no problem, and stick it in the ground on the other side. Shot a lot of hogs that way too. Um, Cutting diameter was only an inch, inch and a quarter, but it drove through like, a knife through hot butter. I mean, it was phenomenal. These guys nowadays, they want a huge hole and a lot of blood fast, and that's fine, but if you don't hit a vital, you got a bigger problem.
Yeah,
So, everybody's different. That's why, I don't really comment on what they use. I just ask everybody to practice at a safe distance to where you're comfortable and you can actually hit a pipe plate every time under duress.
yeah, that's the whole key. And I know when I was helping some archers out in the store, it's like, okay, you got that 8-inch pipe plate. Nah, at 20 yards, you got to be better than that. So
Yeah,
I'd give them a little smaller target to shoot at. It's like if you can't hit that at 20 yards, you better be shooting at 10 yards because you don't have the skills to hit. If you need a whole plate to be able to hit at 20 yards, your effective yardage is 10 yards or less. Because you
yes.
can't do that. One thing is like, okay, set your 20-yard pin up, shoot at 10 yards, shoot at 20 yards, shoot at 30 yards, and see how far you're off. Because if you misjudge by 10 yards or even go up by 5 yards, go back to 25 yards and shoot your 20-yard pin. Are you still on the paper plate? And one of the things that we used to talk about, I never did it because I my mind just I need to be more precise than that. But what you'd do is you'd go in, you'd set your pin up to shoot at the edge of the plate, and the top of the pin, the top of the plate, or your kill zone, or whatever you're using for it, and then keep walking back, walking back, walking back until you hit at the bottom. Then that's where you set your next pin. And that you set that hit at the top, you keep walking back, going back. So now you get to determine is it close or far? This is my close pin, this is my far pin. Uh, my mind wouldn't let me do that, but that's a technique you can use. It's like I can hit within the kill zone from 10 yards to 25 yards. And if it's more than 25 yards, 25 to 35 is where this one working in that range. And now you don't have to worry about it. But then that depends on you being able to hit what you're aiming at. So that takes it down. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
being off by 5 yards can make a difference between a kill shot and a bad shot.
yeah, I do a lot of tree stand hunting. I do a little bit of ground blind, but I sight in out of a tree stand, so I don't sight in on the ground. The ground gets me close, but gravity is not prevalent at that distance up high, even though you're shooting pretty fast. But um, I very rarely will shoot past 30 yards. That's just, I know I can shoot a lot further, but I don't want to. My game is to get close to the deer. That's the Fred Bear way, right?
Right.
So I want to get close enough to be that I know and I can see what I'm doing. I don't want to be shooting so far out that um, I'm guessing. So That's just me though. I mean, that's just been my way. I want as close as possible. Um, and then I sight in from a tree stand. That's the big thing for me. A lot of guys sight in on the ground and then they get in a tree stand and I'll see it at 3D shoots and they're 4 inches high and they don't understand why. Well, gravity's not being able to grab your arrow as much 20 feet up or 15 feet up. So you got to watch. I mean, but I shoot a single pin and I have a system on how I sight it in. So I know at 30 where to hold the pin and I know where at 20 where to hold the pin.
Yeah. Well, now, the reason people shoot high at an elevated position is because they don't understand how gravity works. Basically, if I
No.
put a target out at 20 yards, I stand on the ground, I shoot it for 20 yards, I climb up 20 feet up in a tree, I still shoot it for 20 yards. But it looks like it's further than that because it is. So now you shoot it for what you think it is, which might be 30 yards, and now you shoot over it. So anybody in construction knows what a 3-4-5 triangle is. That's how you do a right angle. And so let's say you're from your tree, the trail is 30 yards away at the base of the tree. Now you're 40 yards up. And now what do you shoot it for? Because 40 yards, it's 3-4-5, it's 3-4, and it's 5. So it'd be 30 yards out, 40 yards up, it's 50-yard shot. What do you shoot it for? Most people say, well, I'll shoot it for 50. You just shot over it by 20 yards. You shoot it for 30
Yeah.
because gravity only works straight down. It don't care how far it travels. It only
Mm-mm.
cares how far you are horizontally. The vertical makes no difference. You could be 100 yards up and still shoot it for 30 yards. Now, you
Yep.
can't see the deer very good at that far, but um, I had perfect, it's a situation. I had this, and when I'm in a tree stand, I'm going to find the trail, go find a tree. I'm going to judge yardage to that tree, not where the trail is. So I knew the trail was 20 yards from the base of my tree straight out horizontally. It was 20 yards. A deer come by. My pins didn't come close to filling that deer up because it was like, 40, 50 yards shot is what it looked like because I was on top of a hill on a tree. And I knew that trail was 20 yards away. I put my 20-yard pin on it where I wanted it to go, and I got the deer. I hit it right where I wanted to hit it because I knew the trail was 20 yards away. And that's the part that is hard to do. Now, reverse it. You're on the ground going straight across horizontal, but you can't see is 30 yards or 20 yards, and you're up. And I know that that's 20 yards. No matter how high it is, I'm still going to shoot that for the 20 yards. Now, the other mistake people make on that is that full draw, they drop the arm. That just changed everything. Not only did the string move away from your eye, the only way to do it is the bend it to keep this form like a shooting on the ground. That is your form all the time. You're going to bend at the waist down or bend at the waist going up. And that is your form. And now you can still use your back tension to release because that part of your body did not change, just at the waist. And I said this on a couple when I
That's
was at a indoor
that's
3D shoot, and I was on a platform, and the gator was 5 feet from me, and I knew based on my bow that I'd shoot it for 70 yards. So I'm bending down when 70 yards has got on there, and I shot and I hit it where I wanted. And I say, well, I'll just sight down the arrow. You ever shot by sighting down the arrow? No. Well, how do you know it's going to work? Because it's different.
yeah, I see a lot of people when they try to bend at the waist, that's where they don't practice that enough, especially at tack or shooting from a tree stand. They think it's just a normal shooting position and it's not. So until
No.
you practice that and then you add gravity into it, there's the number one mistake that rookies make right there, is
Yep.
learning that process. And it's tough, but you can do it if you practice it. Um, that's why I limit myself to 30 yards. I just want that deer closer. I don't want him at 5 feet. Don't get me wrong. That angle's a little um, no
It's a
man's
tough
land,
shot.
one lung. Yeah, bad deal. But I prefer 20 to 30, so a good double lung or low heart. So
Yeah, that those close shots are tough. And the other thing I get used to is when you're in a tree stand, and you need to get to a position, you have to depend on your safety harness to keep you in the, because sometimes you're leaning over. I had one, I shot it come, it was in really close. I shot it, run out in the field, stood broadside to me 30 yards away. There was a tree in the way between me and the deer was a tree. I got more arrows. I'm going to stick it again, because why let it just stand there? It probably would have dropped right there. So I'm leaning out, depending on my safety belt to hold me up to get my second shot in. And I hit it again. Of course, it run off and it's a little harder track because it probably would have just laid down right there. But we got it and I stuck another arrow in it. So that's my idea is if I can get a second shot, I'm going to shoot it again. Because I want it to, die as quickly as possible, and I don't want to let it sit there and, you know, waiting longer than we have to for him because sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I know it's a little rarer than most, but I've heard people saying that they've been able to get a second arrow in. I've not ever had that happen to me. Um, but if I had that opportunity, I would do the same thing, no doubt.
Now, if that had been my first shot at 30 yards away, leaning off like that, I probably wouldn't have took it because it was not a high percentage shot. But I'd already had there's a fatal shot through it anyway. And even if I made a bad hit, it was still had a fatal shot through it anyway.
So you're bringing up some memories when we were at Indian Caves filming the state park up there. Are you familiar with that?
Um,
In Nebraska on the river there?
yeah, I
So
think
you could,
I've been there like once or twice is all.
okay, so in the early, well, let's say late 90s, you could, I don't know if you still can. I think it got flooded, but with people, but you could bow hunt that. So I'd buy two tags every year and we go up shoot video. And we packed in about half mile in there one morning and we get all the way up. And I had a Scott's index release and my trigger fell out to activate that release. So I know
I
it's
had that
funny, but
happen to this one.
yeah. So
It was
we
in my
did,
bow case, so I put it back in, and I might have to tighten it up again. I put some Loctite on it. I just noticed now it'll twist. But
but
yeah,
but
unfortunately, I found it in my case.
I got to be honest with you, we didn't have harnesses back then, but it was I had to fire that thing off. I've never done it before, just by trying to push in where the stem, the shaft came out, and it worked. Shot the buck, but just stuff like that, you got to improvise. You never think would happen, and it happened. Um, back then I didn't carry an extra release like a dummy. It's a rookie mistake, but
Yeah,
um, you just improvise and do the best you can, and it worked out. I got lucky.
yeah. Well, I carry this one as my main one that I hunt with. This is what I go to when it gets cold because I have more glove on. And then I keep this one. It's a True Fire as a backup. I don't like using it because it's got the jaws and you got to really pull long ways to make it go off. But um, that's my emergency backup. I've dropped this one out of the tree stand before, and it's like, well, okay, get my backup, pull this one out because I,
Yeah.
I can shoot them just fine now. On this one, I got to pretty much have not much glove on because I need to be able to feel the trigger here, and I need to be able to have everything else in here. So this has got to be open, so my gloves don't have much on it. Where this one, the only thing I need out is my index finger. Everything else can be in a glove.
Wow.
So I don't
Yeah.
use I don't use the carder when it gets really cold up here in Nebraska. It can be below freezing, and I really don't want to grab a release that's frozen.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be tough to fire off. So I was going to ask you, at any of your podcasts, did you guys cover any of the social media um, entrepreneurs or um, stuff like we're doing, working for, uh, I guess they call us micro, not macro, but social media influencers?
There's a few of them that have been doing that. I don't specifically. look for somebody that is a social media influencer. If they're an archer, then I don't really look for influencers to, just kind of boost anything. I want just, I'm not here to try and really promote anything, you know. Now, that's how whatever you're into is what we're going to talk about. We really
Yeah,
didn't talk too much about archery this time so far, but this has
yeah,
been some great information. We got some information about the S3BA and a little bit of information about NASP and where those are at. A couple of broadheads. We've, talked about broadheads, and I've had manufacturers on here before. I had well, the guys from True Ball was on. I've had some other broadhead manufacturers on. Um, Camel clothing. I've had guys that developed a completely different camo pattern that seems to be working really well. Um, they've had archers that have just stood out there and a deer couldn't figure out what they were. They just ignored them. And there's all kinds of different things out there. So I've talked to a couple of the bigger name companies, inviting them to be on, and some of them are on, some of them don't. But hey, if it's got to do with archery, I'm open. So if you know anybody that has anything related to archery, another podcast even, we'll promote their podcast on here as well. Um, if they've got a hunting channel, we'll promote that. We're just talking just all the information. If you're a new archer looking to getting started and you don't have your first bow yet, hey, come on, let's talk about it. We'll go through whatever you need to know to get started. You don't have to be an expert archer to be on. It just need to have interest in archery, and we'll start talking about it. If you need questions, hey, let's do that. If you want to be on the podcast and we'll work through some problems, kind of an educational podcast, I'm open to that. Just pretty much open to just about anything.
yeah. It's one thing we haven't touched on is especially the youth. I always tell everybody shoot what brand you can aim with the best, or
Yep.
it holds good for you. But we tend to run into people that are brand specific, right? Um,
Yep.
I mean, I shoot for bear, but like I told everybody, they're all good bows. Shoot what you want, shoot what you like, shoot what you can afford, and be happy. Um, but at the very least, try not to cut other people's bows down or brands down because we're all an archery family. Um, you get the archery snobs, and those are the people that really are hard on our youth when they try that stuff because our youth is just learning and growing, right? They don't know any better. So let them make their own decisions. You know what I mean? Don't be an
Yeah.
influencer on. But I see that a lot, and that's the most disheartening side for me that nobody talks about in the archery world right now, anyways. But hopefully that'll change down the road.
Yeah. Well, and I was a POC dealer for a few years, and then when I closed the shop and went to work for Bass Pro, they sold PSE, the main line, not the pro line, and they had the Diamond and Bear, and I can't remember all the different brands it was. That's probably 10 years ago now, but um, I didn't specifically push them into the PSE bows, even though I think they're a great bow. But like you said, that whether they're PSE, they're Hoyt, they're Matthews, they're Elite, they're
Yeah.
Bowtech. Um,
Well,
I'm drawing a blank. There's so many of them now.
yeah,
They're all made good quality bows.
yeah. I mean,
Darton's.
I'll be honest with you. When I shot 3D in the late 90s, I could tell you brands and I won't that were absolute junk. Now they're all good brands. We're all chasing patents now, but the youth is our future and we got to watch how we present ourselves to the kids, right? And there's kids that I've seen at the shoots that, that probably can't rub two nickels. And then there's a kid that's got a $2,000 bow, we got to be real careful because we don't want to lose any archers, right?
Right.
That we're trying to grow the sport, not discourage the sport. So that's the part I think we all need to come together more on as an archery community and just support each other, whether or not we like your brand or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when I tell new archer when you get to going there looking at bows is if you're right-handed, pick up right-hand bows. You're left-handed bows, of course, but pick up the bow that's in your. Go in with what kind of money you want to spend, and give yourself a little bit of leeway, but don't go up there and grab that bow that just a plain bow by itself is $900 when your budget is $600 for the whole works because you're not going to like it. And grab the bow, put it in your hand. Do you like the way it feels? No, put it back. Grab the next one and go through all of them like that. And it's like, okay, I like this one. I like this one. Okay. And I go to whatever shop you're at and say, okay, um, I need to know what my draw length is. So they should set to your draw length. And I always set them to the same weight because if you're comparing one bow that's at 50 pounds, one is at 70 pounds, you can't compare them. So set them all the same weight, same draw length, and then shoot them and see what you
Yeah.
like. And I had this one time. We had four bows, I think it was, in the range. Try them and try them. It's like couldn't decide. So I said, okay, close your eyes. I'm gonna hand you a bow, and it was up close enough. I didn't worry about missing. Hitting the backstop is all you could do. So I said, okay. He don't even know which bow it was, so he can't make that decision based on I like this brand or I like this brand or I like the way this bow looks. Put it in your hand, shoot it with your eyes closed. Okay, grab the next one, get the arrow loaded, shoot it eyes closed. Which one do you like better and why? So I like this one better because I didn't care what the because was or why he liked it. It's just I wanted him to say. And then okay, so take the one he didn't like, put aside, grab the other two, shoot those. Okay, I like this one better. And then now take the two you like the best. Now, which one you like better? It's like, okay, that's your bow. Because he didn't have any idea on which bow it was. So that's one of the things if you get more than two things, you can't make a decision. So I narrowed it down to this one or this one. And now then come down and that's the bow he picked. And may not have been one he liked because it looked pretty or something, you know, um, or whatever. But that's one way to determine which bow is going to work best for you. Just put it and shoot your eyes closed. Now, don't do it if there's nobody around to supervise, because that can be dangerous. Somebody all of a sudden walks in and don't know you're shooting with your eyes closed. But that's one way to determine, which bow you like the best. And don't worry about what the brand is. In fact, it's best to have multiple brands when you're trying to do that because you don't know what's going to fit you.
And that's the tough part too, because a lot of these shops are brand specific. So you can't go, you'd have to take a whole day off to go to 6 shops just to touch every brand to
Yeah,
make a decision. They're not like a Walmart where you walk in and there's 1,300 brands sitting in there and you can try them all. Um, you have to drive, at least in this area, to find different brands to put them in your hands. So
yeah,
it takes a while. It's kind of disheartening because I wish more brands were in one area, but they're not.
yeah. Well, now, as far as archery shops in Omaha and Lincoln, there's none. Um, the only pro shop around is in down by Plattsmouth, which is a little ways away. That's the only pro shop. Now you can go to Cabela's, Bass Pro, Shields, Dick's. I think Dick's has, I don't know, but at least those three they have multiple brands of bows. So you can go try them out.
Yeah,
Now, whether or not you have somebody there that knows anything about the equipment, that's a different story.
yeah,
Now, if you go to a pro shop, you can pretty much be sure that they know that the bows that they have and the features on them, they can fit you correctly. Uh, you don't know. Now, when I worked at Bass Pro, there was four of us that were, well, we worked in our own shops or had our own shops. So between the four of us, we probably had 60 or 70 years experience. And then when I went to Cabela's, I was the only one with any experience. And then one of the guys at Bass Pro come over with me, and it's kind of interesting story. I was just in my orientation, just started, and John comes in. I seen him in there interviewing with the archery manager, and I looked at him. Hey, John, it's like if you don't hire him, you're stupid. I told the manager that when I got finished, I was doing. I actually told him that. It's if you don't hire him, you're stupid.
but you'll
So
see that. I mean, at nationals, we were even talking about it. There was a group from Oklahoma we talked to quite a bit, and they said, Darton's making a comeback. I'm like, yeah, with all the new technology that Darton has just come out with, it's mind blowing. Um, Basically, that bow, you could do everything from at home. I mean, it's just priceless. And now Elite's just launched their new one, the Victa, and it's the same way. It's just a spitting image of Darton, but a different patent. But
Yeah.
we're getting to the point where people can work on their stuff at home. Um, it's going to get tougher and tougher for bow shops because the technology's catching up.
Yeah. Well, it used to be you had a bow press if you had to have a bow press if you wanted to change the modules because you had to release the pressure on them, and then they come out the ones just loosen a couple screws and rotate it, and it's getting a lot easier to work on it for the Bowtex too, because we don't have to do as much hassle. We don't have to change modules out to change draw length, and we don't have to change cams out. I think Matthew still changes cams. There's a little bit of variation. You have to order them in the length you want. And I think there's a couple other bows that you have to have cams are specific because, well, if you get one that the more flexible it is, the less performance you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, like so something interesting that nobody's talking about is the new SD short draw for people like me and my daughter. Darton has come out with the short draw module. So instead of having a 30-inch draw length right on a big cam, um, that cam is set up for 28 inches and under, right? Or 29 or 20, I think 28 and a half. But it starts at 25 or yeah, 25, I think, somewhere in there. So we're starting to add another version for short draw because the standard draw length of the average person is 28. But most bows come with the 30-inch draw. Some are 31 and 32 now on the long draws. But you see what I'm saying? You're not getting your full energy and performance if you have a 27.5-inch draw on a 30-inch cam. So you have to move
Yeah,
your mod. It's kind of an engineering design, but I kind of liked when Darton did that. That's a new take that nobody's done so far. All the Bear stuff we have, it's got rotating modules like everybody else for draw
yeah,
length and um, weight. But now we're getting into tuning features. That's the road we're going down now with everybody. So that's going to be an interesting road.
yeah. I know that on being PSE, there's some of the cams you had to change the whole module out because it had different uh, lobes and it was shaped different. The shape of was completely different depending on which module you put in.
Yeah.
And then there's some that like the Matthews that come out in half inch. So if you want 29 um, or 29 and a half or 30, you had to order the module of the whole cam for that. And you had about an eighth of an inch variation you could do on each one. So, if you had a 29 and a half inch bow and the person wanted to buy it from it was 29, well, you can either start messing with strings and cables or you buy a new set of cams.
Yep.
And there's a lot of technology out there that's been shared. I know all the bows now are center shot design risers. Do you know who has the patent on center shot design risers?
Is it Darton?
No, PSE.
Oh, is it PSE? I was gonna
Yeah,
say Darton has a lot of patents. I was guessing because most people shoot a Darton cam, they just don't know it. But from the
yeah.
patents on it.
But Pete Shepley never enforced his patent on it. He got the patent on it, but Matthews, they start, center shot design riser. They're using PSE's patent riser design.
Yeah.
And I know there was one time when PSE come up with a cam that kind of looked like it had that little dampener in it, but it didn't have a dampener in it. And our Matthews are trying to sue him over that design, and they eventually just went away because I think PSE finally says, "Well, okay, but you can't use my patent on my center shot design riser," which meant every one of their bows had to go away. So you have it. Don't mean you have to enforce it, but that's been so long ago now that you couldn't enforce it now. Especially history, he never enforced it, and he's got multiple other patents too that he did. I don't remember what all of them were, but You know, it was like, okay, this is an improvement in archery. Okay, archery world, take it and go.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when Mr. Dudley left. Him and Shepley had kind of built that up for a long, long time. That's why I was surprised, but they did a good job. They built some really good bows over the years.
Yeah, there's yeah, I'm kind of fond of PSE because I was a dealer and I used to sell more PSE bows than the other three shops in town because that was the main line. I had that, and then I had some Martins. I'd had a few Martins, mostly the recurves and the Martins. And back then it was like I had a guy that bought several of them, and he says he had a medium-sized hand, so like a medium glove, and we told him it was okay. We want the grip to fit somebody with a medium gloved size hand, and it come in fitting perfectly.
Wow.
They were they'd custom make the bow, because they're making all those things. They just kind of, I don't know if they had basic in their CNC machine or whatever, however they formed them. Here's a small, medium, large grip or extra large grip, but it come in that way. And we was
Yeah,
talking about.
it's kind of like the riser design. We're getting ready to go to that magnesium light risers now. They're all trying to go to that super light material. And I think there's a lawsuit. It's either Expedition or one of them I read yesterday. Somebody's in a lawsuit. And I don't know if it's Matthews is going after him, but somebody's going after somebody over that riser type design material. So I don't know if it's a big tactic, big company tactic, or if there's any teeth in it, but I think it's Matthews after Expedition. I'm not sure. You'll have to look that one up, but
Yeah,
uh, everybody's trying to go lighter now. It's kind of funny. We're going longer, and now we're going lighter.
yeah. Well, problem with the magnesium is that's like some of your fire starters are made out of that. Once you get it lit, it don't go out.
Nope.
So don't get your bow around fire.
Yeah.
Well, strings don't like around fire anyway, but
Yeah.
I had I had a bow as a American Challenger. It was one of those poured risers. I don't know if it was magnesium or what it was, but it was one of those poured risers, not the machined aluminum like you have now. And 2 weeks for hunting season, I'm making sure everything's all there. I'm down making sure I'm all sighted in for my broadheads because I had one bow and I'd sight them in for field tips and then re-sight them in for broadheads. And now I got two bows, so I just sight one in for broadheads and leave it. But I was shooting and it's like the pins are off, so I'm adjusting and I'm shooting and I'm adjusting and nothing was it never I could never get my pins on. So I went up close to the backstop. I says, I'm going to go up there and see what it's doing. And I drew back and I shot, and I'm holding the bottom half of the bow. The riser broke in half. The
Yep.
top half of the bow come back and hit me in the chest. And I'm down at the indoor range in the club by myself, like middle of the night. and and it's like, okay, I just left a little welt in my chest, but that's some of those older design and poured risers um, are just it just what it was doing was I didn't realize it, but it was weak and it was starting to bend. And as it bent a little bit, I'd move my sights. Next time I'd shoot, bend a little bit more, move my sights, bend a little bit more, move my sights. So now, then 2 weeks before hunting season, that's when I bought my first PSE. I forget which one it was, but that was probably early 90s, I think, or
Hmm.
80s. So I forget now. It's been so long ago. And so I got it. I got that bow, and I went out when I went out to get it. Um, she said, we just looked at it because my other bow was 32 inches. Because the first time I got my first bow, when I went out there to the shop, and now this is a pro shop, and of course that was in the 70s too, and they didn't know as much, but I I drew it back and says, well, how's that feel? Okay. I'm stretched right. I'm drawn at 32 inches is what the bow was set for. So I thought I was 32-inch drawing. So when that bow broke, was it High Country had bought that company out. So they were sending me a bow, 32-inch draw. And of course, there's all kinds of problem with that bow. So I got rid of it. And in the meantime, I bought my PSE. But then when I went down in '95, when I went down to shooter school and to learn how to shoot and become an instructor for NFAA, it measures our draw length and it says, you're 29 and a half draw length, and my bow's set for 32. This is on a Friday night. This is the next class was Saturday night. It's like your bow must be set to 29 and a half inches for Saturday night, or there's no reason to come back because you can't teach the technique when you're already stretched out. There is no pulling through with your back because you're already stretched out as far as you can go just to draw it back. And I got it down to 29 and a half, and be going from 32 to 29 and a half. It did not feel comfortable because it was so short. Well, it's 2.5 inches shorter. And I shot and shot, and I didn't do like some of them that just went back doing what I was doing before. I went through and I finally got comfortable with that. It's like, okay, now this feels good. And now I shoot 29. I shot them that extra half inch because I don't hit my arm anymore in wintertime, with the big heavy coats on. I don't hit them because that half inch shorter. And so that's what I do in my draw length there. And it works good now. Now my bows are set to the proper draw length.
Yeah, that's good.
All kinds of stuff to do. And I even when I was doing aluminums one time, I weighed all my um, aluminum shafts. I fleshed them, got them all fletched, and then had the insert and knock in there. And then I didn't have the insert for the tip, so I weighed all them. I wrote on them what they weighed, and then, of course, all the inserts weigh almost identical the same. And then I weighed all my tips because, I had store, I'd buy them in 100 bags. So I could find the tips to make the weight to be the same. So I match up a little heavier shaft with a little lighter tip and vice versa. And then I'm taking a file and filing the back of the insert. There's always a little piece in the back, filing that down. So I got a whole dozen arrows within a half a grain of each other. It took a while to do, but my thought was, being an engineer, I thought, well, if the arrows all weigh exactly the same, coming out of the same bow set the same way, I should have the same speed coming out and the same total weight, so my drop should be the same. So I should have the most consistent group. I never did it again because it was way too much work for
Yeah,
20-yard shots when you're hunting. Yeah.
that's a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. It
And
was a lot of work, but it was kind of fun doing,
and
it's just,
yeah, and nowadays components are so tight tolerances you don't have to do that anymore, especially arrows. But um, everything has changed, even on the circuit arrow stuff. It's just they're not even off a tenth of a grain sometimes. It's incredible.
yeah. Well, I know you buy a pack of 6 Muzzy broadheads and you weigh them, they're all almost exactly the same weight. They might be 101 or 99 or something like that. Now, the next pack, they're all within the same tolerance, but the two packs may not be the same weights.
Yeah, that's why I kind of quit doing unboxing videos for ultras because every arrow I'm not used to that, but every arrow spins the same. I'm used to like 9 out of 12 arrows spin the same, right? There's always one or two that you have trouble with on an end or something. And every unboxing I did on an ultra, it didn't matter if it's 27, 25s, 23s, 204, 246, or 166s. They all spin the same. And it's like it's incredible. I'm not, it's times have changed a
Yeah.
lot. It's nice to get 12 good arrows now, when you pay for 12 arrows. You expect that, but a lot of times back in the day, you didn't get that. It's kind of a dirty little secret, but
Yeah. I know there's times when I'd get up a dozen arrows and field tips, they didn't care. But then when I put the broadheads on, trying to tune the broadheads, I'd have one or two out of a dozen that would not shoot a broadhead at all. There's nothing I
yeah,
could do. No way I could tune them or anything. And with the 3-bladed Muzzy and the three I shoot feathers. I've been shooting feathers since the 60s, and I just don't like vanes.
Yeah,
There's some advantages when you're out in rainy weather. Yeah, feathers can be a little trouble, but I take my quiver off and I hang it on the tree. I got a little receiver I screw in. I can just lock it onto the tree, and the fletching stays dry. So the one I'm shooting, if it gets wet enough, I just take it out and swap it out for one that's dry. And if it's raining that bad, I'm not staying in the forest anyway. I'm getting out of there. I'm not going to hunt in the rain because it's too hard to blood trail them when it's pouring down rain, and it's
yeah,
no fun being there. And it gets slick, and then who knows? It starts lightning, and last storm that rolled through here, we had lots and lots of lightning and lots and
yeah.
lots of wind too. Like 80-mile-an-hour winds. And fortunately, I didn't lose anything but some small branches, and about half of them were dead branches anyway. But our neighbor, she's the one that killed our power for the village because she had some trees come down and took the line down, fell in her pool. Nice little um, fireworks show until it popped the breaker. Had other ones hanging over the lines, so they had to have power company come in and ground out the lines so the tree guys could get in there and cut the branches down and get them off the lines, and then got it hooked back up. And so it was out of power from like 6 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. Generators are nice.
Well, one thing about it, hopefully, we can talk again down the road too, when I can give you an update on how we're progressing on the S3DA side with the growth, and
Oh
where we're
yeah,
at
that'd
with
be good.
this shooter
Yeah.
card raffle and some of these vendors stepping up, I hope, to the plate here to help us out. That would be a good one to revisit, I think. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
I could I could bring some stands releases on too, give you more of a visual. I didn't have them; they're downstairs, but I didn't think to bring them up. We could have went over them too.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that another time, and anytime. A little bit later when we get there. And the one thing I do allow posting and promoting in the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group is events. So if you have an archery event and if you got something coming up, um, I don't know if you're a member of the group yet or not, but if you have one of those events coming up, post information about the event. How people
Yeah,
can join in and attend them, and um,
yeah. I
it
don't think
just
I've joined yet. I'll have to look that up. So
yeah.
I don't think I'm a member yet, but I'll look that up for you after we get off here.
Yeah, that's one thing, that helps archers out. Where can I go shoot? Where's an event? And, I don't allow you to sell stuff in the group because I don't want it turning in one of the sites that I got this for sale, I got this for sale. And there are sites that you can do that on, go to those. Um,
Yeah,
so
mine wouldn't be about that. Mine would just be about promoting the archer
yeah.
youth and the archery industry as itself as a whole. So just trying to get the word out on new opportunities for our youth archers out there and what's
And
available to them.
and that's what it's there for. And provide, I want the group to provide information to archers, you know, if they're having problem with something. Post your problem. If you can take a video on your phone and upload it from your phone to the group, you can do that. If you're having a form problem, upload it to the group because there's a lot of instructors out there in the group.
Yeah,
Like I said, I've been an instructor since '95, so I've taught lots and lots of people how to shoot. And there's other instructors out there, and there's different level instructors that teach different things. And like you with the youth, you're more associated with those two youth groups and how they do stuff. And that's some good information on coaching. Um, somebody's shooting a Genesis. There's different things you have to do when you're learning how to shoot one of those as opposed to something else because you know it fits everybody, but I'd like to say those kind of bows fit everybody but fit nobody.
yeah. It's an 11-step program that they teach, but it's hand eyes all it is, and then follow the 11-step approach. It's kind of like a lot like ASA archery academics. They have a step program, and different levels. So it's similar.
Yeah. And that I encourage people to upload videos of them shooting and say, here's the problem I'm having, or what am I doing wrong, and I'm not getting good groups, and then show a picture of you shooting, show a picture of your group, and a lot of times we can pick up stuff that you're inconsistent, especially trad shooters with their fingers. They
Yeah.
come back, and one time they'll come back, and then one time they'll come down, and one time they'll come up, and sometimes the way you're handing out, and you can see all that when you're shooting, when you're doing multiple shots. It's like you're never going to be consistent because this hand is never doing the same thing. You want to come back, get your anchor point, and drag your fingers across your face. Every time, if you do that, every time you're getting a consistent release. If one time you open your fingers, that's decreasing your draw length as you open your fingers, as opposed to sliding it off, coming back. There's so many things we can pick up, and like I said, on a lot of them, I have editing software I use for my podcast. I mean for my YouTube channel, and I can frame advanced room and see all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that would be cool if you could have another session to where we could do an update on where we're at and what's going on with that. And then I can give you an update on the up and coming events this winter for
Yeah,
the
that'd be
community.
good. Yeah, and feel free to post those events as you know information about them into the group, and um, just keep the link I sent you on scheduling it. And when you're ready to come back on, got some more news or something, just schedule time. We'll come back on and we'll do it again.
Okay, I'll reach out to you probably be a couple months, but
Yeah, that's fine.
couple months out, and then I'll get back in touch with you and we can do it again.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Been great
Well,
talking with you.
yeah, it was
We,
nice meeting you, Roy, and you have a good evening, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
yeah, reach out anytime if you have a question or anything I can help you with. Just reach out, let me know. Not just you, anybody. If you have a question, something I can help you with, get a hold of me. I'm not hard to find. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I think you'd be a good platform for the S3DA to get the word out, though. That'd be a
Yeah,
good starting point with you. So
yeah.
I'd
Let's do
appreciate
that,
that.
and we'll get them out there, and then you guys can repost the stuff too. I don't restrict them, so anybody can repost the stuff I have. It's just out there. Just you know, repost it.
Okay, we will do.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Been great talking with you,
Hey, nice
and
meeting you.
it's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy these. And you've been watching so far. It's like, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. My name is Rory Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Arch Talk 101, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a good day.